Welcome to I Drink, Therefore I Am, a think tank media podcast, hosted by international spirits educator and whiskey ambassador Martin C. Duffy. Each episode, Marty sits down with distillers, brand builders, and industry insiders to talk about the craft, the culture, and the business behind the spirits world. Pour yourself something appropriate, and let's get into it.
I'm Martin Duffy. I'm the North American brand representative for Glencairn Crystal. How are you? Also known as the Crystal King of Chicago. That's crystal as in glass, as in what you drink out of. So no weird requests. All right. And today we spared no expense. And believe me, it was expensive getting her. Emily Pennington, the newly appointed, well, not so newly this year, appointed CEO of the American Craft Spirits Association. So she is the new head, the new captain of the ship, using that metaphor once again within the last 10 minutes. Little M, well, let's talk a little first about your background, because again, it's shady as all hell. There's a lot of criminal aspects I know we can't talk about. But you were originally, I think when I first met you, you were a writer. Were you not?
Yeah. Yes. Well, you really just got right into it. I didn't get a chance to say thank you for having me on this esteemed show.
I didn't think you'd want to. I just didn't think you'd want to.
There was no cue on when to jump in at all.
No, I'm sorry. You're right. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
You're welcome. Spare no expense. Go ahead.
What was the question? I started my career as a journalist.
Well, yeah. Well, your background was originally, as far as I know, was writing about the spirit industry. And that's kind of interesting. I always love these paths within this industry of where people were and how it led them. Even myself,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even start drinking until my late 20s. Luckily, I'm in my 90s now, so 70 years.
I also did not drink until I went to college.
See?
I started late too.
Which is actually legal. So that's good.
Yeah, maybe a year before it was legal.
Okay.
I was a good kid. But yeah, I started off as a journalist, and even before the alcohol industry, funny enough, is I started off writing like freelance political journalism.
Really?
And I grew up in Texas, and I went to school in Texas, and I covered one of the first Tea Party rallies back then. And I remember thinking like, the editors, when I turned in the piece, they were like, did anything happen at this? I was like, no, not really. I don't think it's going anywhere.
Huh.
It was very wrong, which is probably why I'm not a political journalist anymore. But yeah, so I ended up at a small trade publication called Wine and Spirits Daily after that, which is, for anyone who might not know, it's a daily trade newsletter. It was like a Substack before Substack existed. And we reported on the entire wine and spirits industry every day in a newsletter. And so that was sort of my education. I did that for 7 years, reported on, earnings calls and industry news and interviews. And it was a very in-depth education on the industry.
Well, and that's it. So, I mean, was that something you wanted to do, that direction, or was that something the editor said, hey, Emily, hey, Pennington, get out there. We want you to hit the beat over here, covering the spirits. 23 skidoo, kid.
So this publication, all they did was alcohol, but I did not have dreams of going into the alcohol business. But essentially what I did have was 10 years of serving, waiting tables and bartending as I was growing up, and a journalism degree. And they were like, that's enough. You can do it. I graduated, by the way, this is 15 years ago. So it was after the great financial recession. And so journalism jobs were hard to come by at that point because they had not figured out the transition from print to online and digital yet, and how to make money from that. So it was nothing that I ever planned to go into, but here I am 15 years later with no plans to leave.
So that got you into, let's see, from there, you went over to Park Street.
Mm-hmm.
And how'd you make that leap? Was that an offer, or you saw it and you go, woo?
Yep. So Park Street is, I think this context is important. So Park Street is a huge company with a ton of compliance offerings. I guess I would say it that way. It's sort of like, I think of it as like a buffet. They do like importing and exporting, compliance, logistics. And as I was, learning about this industry, Harry Coleman, CEO and founder, is one of the first people that I met who really did a lot of background on teaching me how this industry worked. So I'd known him for a long time, and they created this concept called Park Street University that was essentially designed to educate both their clients and the industry at large. Because at this time, so let's see, when did I start there? Probably 2018, I want to say. So craft is still, craft is thriving. There's hundreds of new distilleries online every day, plus the ones coming in from overseas. The market was really flooded with a lot of young up and coming businesses that didn't know what they didn't know. So they wanted to create an education division that would also serve as, marketing for the company in general. So I spent 5 years there building up this. It was really like a media, I wouldn't know if I'd call it an empire, but it was a media conglomerate, right? We also had a blog, a podcast, a video series, all these other things by the time I left.
Hey, speaking of not knowing what you don't know, if you guys were offering this kind of information, I've always found this was the biggest problem with the influx of new distilleries, new distillers. It seemed like, everybody was so focused on building their distillery, distills and then starting production, and then that was it. As far as learning about the marketing aspect of their brands, which to me is the make or break for these businesses over the number of years. They've lost about a quarter of all the distilleries here in the US, and God knows, and I'm sure overseas, like in Ireland, they've lost a number of distilleries that started up. And it just seems like nobody ever stopped to figure out, oh yeah, you know what? I forgot there's a thing called marketing. There's a thing about promoting our brands and getting it out there and getting liquored lips and all this other stuff. Did you guys find that people were coming to you and actually learning this stuff, or do they just keep on thinking, oh, I don't need it?
Yeah. Oh, okay. So there's a lot to unpack in that question. So the first one is you are absolutely right about that. And I think in a lot of ways, they didn't have to develop that skill set for two reasons. One, because craft was still in its discovery phase. And so consumers just consumers were in a trial discovery period where craft was new and they just wanted to try anything and everything. They had expendable income, times were good. And so I think that masked a lot of inherent weaknesses in some of the brands, and financial instability. The other thing is at that time, distributors were doing a little bit more of the sales and legwork for them that they didn't have to do on their own yet. Now, I'm sure we'll get into this, but times are drastically different now. And they have realized post-COVID, now that consumer demand is very different and distributor and retailer demand is very different, that, hey, we're going to have to do more of this ourselves. So back then, they did not. I think a lot more of them have come to realize that that is a necessity that they need to build within their teams.
Yeah. I mean, I've been harping on this actually almost every episode, and that I just found it interesting that I would get calls. I'm not even in, that side of the business, but people would call me up and ask me about the Chicago market and say, hey, I have a distributor and they're not selling my brand. I go, yeah, they're not going to.
Yeah.
They'll take the order. It's kind of goofy in a way. You almost feel like you need to, I'd like to see self-distribution, but I don't even know if a lot of small little distilleries would be set up for that anyways.
It depending on where they are, we hear mixed feedback on how helpful it is. I think we have a couple of members in Maryland where they can self-distribute, which is also very, very tiny state, that they love it.
Well, no, and I think there are some who have the wherewithal. They know how to set it up and go about it. And they might even you do still need the cash. You need the people who are going to drive the trucks and deliver and do all that. Whereas a lot of them probably don't have that. But there's other ways around that too. If you want to, no, don't call me. I have loads of ideas, but I hate when people call because then they think, oh, Marty, you could do it, couldn't you? No, I couldn't. I'm an old geezer now. I can't. I don't have the wherewithal. All right. So let's continue on the Emily Pennington journey. Because then you go from Park Street. How'd you get involved with ACSA? Because that was next, right?
Yeah. So since the very beginning, I have always had a special affection for the craft category. And I have worked in ACSA's orbit my entire career. I remember the original executive director, Penn Jensen and I were really friendly. Then Margie Lehrman came on, and I remember sitting down with her, at the first convention she was brand new, and we talked about the craft spirits industry, and we've been friendly ever since, right from the beginning. And so I always had a special affection for ACSA. I found that what I really like in life and in my career is sort of being at the intersection of industries and trends. I never really had the desire to work for a singular brand doing work. I really like having that bird's eye view and hopefully having the ability to change things for the category at large, and more specifically for small distillers. What's not to love about family-owned businesses and science nerds who do things the way they want to, and are sort of the rebels of the industry? Like, how can you not fall in love with the people who represent this group? So
when you go visit the distilleries, I'm constantly, in fact, I'm planning on yet another distillery trail. I try to hit some of these state distillery trails, and I got my eye on one particular state that even if they don't have a set distillery trail, I create one. I just look at a map of where all the distilleries are, and I'll draw a little line and go, okay, that's what I'm going to do. Got to make a huge circle. Did Michigan once, just did the mitt. I didn't go up to the upper part, just the mitt. And so I did the whole mitt.
You need to make one of those, track your journey on Google Maps, and so that you can post it on Instagram and have a collection.
Yeah, I don't know if I want people to know. I don't want people knowing where I'm going. I don't know where I want people knowing where I've been. I'm that mysterious.
It's a celebrity status.
What? No, you just never know. I don't know. I think the less people know, the government's already watching us right now, and that's enough.
For sure.
I don't need a bunch of stalkers. But what was that? What was that?
Oh, so
Yeah.
okay, so how I actually ended up at ACSA.
Yeah,
Right?
that.
So I was describing my general affection for the craft spirits category. I do think, to finish that off, I started my career in the very early stages of the craft spirits category. So I really got attached to it as I was watching it grow and develop. How often do you get to see an entire category created from scratch, right? So it was super cool. I always kept in touch with the ACSA team. When I came on, I knew every single person who worked on the ACSA team. Like I didn't need any introductions. And Park Street already worked with ACSA on our craft spirits data project. So I was in touch with the team on a somewhat regular basis, particularly Margie, the former CEO. And so we were, talking one day, and she was talking about succession planning, right? And what was going to be the future of this organization because she was, getting closer to retirement and she was starting to think about it with her career. And I just said, hey, would you consider me? And I thought she was gonna, like jump out of her seat. She was like, I didn't think you would want it, but yes, let's absolutely talk. And so it ended up working out well. The board was in favor of it. And so I came on at ACSA and serendipitously, but I think before I'd ever come on, Marty was thinking about retiring. Then in 2025, she had 2 grandchildren and she was like,
wow.
you know what? It's time. She did in the same year. And I think that really made her think about what the future would be like. And I think she was just ready for that next stage. And I was.
Oh, that's it. Well, it was interesting. I was wondering whether it was something that you wanted to pursue or it was if greatness was thrusted upon you. But obviously you were you wanted to achieve greatness.
Yeah, always. I don't know how to sit still. That could be the ADHD. I don't I don't really know how to coast. I wouldn't if ACSA, came in here and was like, everything is great, just keep the pedal to the metal. I wouldn't really know what to do with myself.
But Em, you are coming in at a rough time. I mean, one, the industry is slow. There's a lot of layoffs. You see a lot of distillers, especially you on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
There's all these folks that we know who are all said, "Hey, looking for a job."
Yeah.
What I mean, it's a tough time, and it's a tough time for ACSA. All these conferences.
As a result, yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you do? And did you know that coming in, or was that kind of happening? You got the job and go, "Oh, crap." I didn't.
Yeah,
Didn't see that.
So I did know, right? It was not at all a shocker to me that craft distillers were struggling. I do this annual report, so I can see the changes over time. I knew they were struggling. I knew the ACSA was feeling it, as a result of our members struggling. Definitely what was different is coming from, a private sort of tech-focused high-speed entity to a nonprofit, and how those work and how those bring in money was very different. But I am not at all surprised that this is challenging. I knew that from the get-go, and that is part of what intrigued me about taking on this role.
Well, did you see? Did you when you got into the position of CEO? Did you go? You know what? I've had some ideas for a while that I want to see implemented. I'd like to see what we do. Plus, the other thing, even though it's kind of the side, it's been talked about in, spirit events, whiskey events, that they're the same old cookie cutter thingy. It's the same old. People are just offering, here's a tablecloth, 6 foot. There you go. Yes, pour out spirits, blah, blah, blah. have you thought of a new approach? Since you already have ADI doing this conference, why compete? Because you're not gonna get a lot of people going to both. So why compete? Why not make it something completely different? Have you thought of that? Is that something you've done?
Yeah. So you're talking specifically about the convention.
Or just stuff
Right.
in general. Just stuff in general. I know you're more of a lobbying
Mhm.
group, but you need to fund that. So how do you raise those
Mhm.
funds and how
Mhm.
do you attract people in?
Yeah. I will say first and foremost, when I came in 2025, they were already in the process of making some big strategic changes and evolving the organization, right? So some of those things I am lucky to be able to execute and debut, like the craft spirit seal. We can talk about that further later. But yeah, there are some other really innovative ideas that we are looking to change at over the next year or two, right? Like some of these things, like the convention or like the competition, can't be changed overnight because we work a year in advance, right? But with the convention specifically, like you were talking about, we absolutely had the ability to make some changes there. I don't, you asked sort of why compete, but it has very high value for our members. It is the one time a year they all get to come together and either commiserate or celebrate, depending upon the year. But I don't think we would ever do away with an annual event. But we do really want to take a look at what provides the most value for them. And so maybe it will look different in the next year or two. For
You
sure.
know, one of the things I've talked to a lot of folks about, um, regionally back, the conferences have been going on for roughly about since 20, I don't know, since 2014,
Mm-hmm.
like the first one. And originally they're always in hotels. And so you might have the exhibit hall and one of the big ballrooms, but then everybody can go out to the old lobby bar. I
Mm-hmm.
hate to make it sound like it's, hey, let's have a drink fest, but that's where a lot of people, and I thought it was just me, but then I talked to other people and said, no, that's where a lot of business got done and also just a lot of networking, a lot of commiserating. Yeah, the commiserating you're talking about. It was so much. I thought it did make the distilling industry community a little tighter, where it was too spread out. Once we could
Mm-hmm.
start going into the big, convention halls and your hotel was sometimes it'd be multiple hotels, and so
Mm-hmm.
we're all spread out. So that I would like to see that myself, but also I think where the main thing would be classes. I know that you guys always put on a number of seminars and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but I thought one of the things that would be really, really good would be a lot of classes, especially for newer distillers, where they learn about the industry itself, the nuts and bolts, even especially if they're just starting up. That hey, if this is where you're at, this is what you have to do next. Or actually, here's the next 3 steps you got to do, and you got to plan on that. Otherwise, you ain't gonna survive. I'm just saying.
So I had two thoughts on that. So one, I don't disagree with your perception of hotel versus convention. Where it gets a little tricky for us is we're always usually hovering close to 1,000
Mhm.
people, and that gets a little tricky for hotel room or hotels because we have outgrown them. I think in the last couple of years, travel's been smaller, shows have been smaller. So it will
KOA,
probably be reviewed again.
do a
Yeah.
KOA.
I would love to do a campground.
That would be kind of cool. Again, a
It would be
lot of
great.
commiserating, helping people put up their tents, or helping them plug the hoses up to their RVs.
Yeah, we'd have to have a huge one though for bringing in 1,000 people. We can't afford tents though, so
Oh, well,
it's probably
everybody,
more cost effective.
it's BYOT. It's just, that's all right. No big, no big thing.
Yeah. Yep. And so we did have a distillery 101 class, but we actually discontinued it last year because we found with fewer and fewer people entering the craft spirit space,
Okay.
we're not attracting those people as much. We're usually attracting the people who have been in business,
Right.
5 to 10 years at this point.
Right.
That's
And
our both our
ADI has always been considered more of the folks who are doing any kind of R&D, where you guys are the more established. However, even the more established guys, I'm always surprised that you'll find somebody who's been at it for 20 years and they still haven't grasped, their packaging is all very different. They don't have a brand. They have a bunch of different, I'm going to put my gin in this bottle. And I'm going to put my vodka over here, and I'm going to make a mezcal in Minnesota. I put it in this snake-shaped bottle, and it's just, no one's teaching them the marketing aspects or how to build a brand. I mean, I'm
so
sure there are, but I don't know.
So we did pivot to focus a lot of our workshops on this year we did distribution and sales.
Okay.
And I think probably we will stick with a workshop around sales and marketing for next year, because I do think it is very clear that this category is sort of undisputedly craft spirits are excellent quality spirits. And they, spent a decade sort of establishing that, improving that. And now we're in the next chapter where the craft distilleries who are going to do really well are going to do two things. They're going to be sort of rigid with their financials, and they're going to have that under control. And they're going to be really good at communicating their value to consumers, right? Because having a good product is just table stakes, right? That just gets you in the door. Now you have to know how to communicate about your product.
Yeah. And dealing with, I know they a lot of these small guys get frustrated with distributors, but it's also about one, distributors can give you a lot of good advice as far as your brand goes, especially when it comes to things like packaging, or you want some crazy bottle. I don't know if I ever told you, I went to WSWA once, and there was a former stripper who had a vodka, and the vodka bottle was a naked woman whose nipples lit up. And I'm thinking, I don't think that's going to be a big seller, surprisingly enough. I would buy a bottle, but I wouldn't put it on my back bar.
I cannot tell you, when I worked at Park Street, I technically worked in the business development segment. So I would see a lot of the new brands that would come through. Park Street worked with thousands of brands all over the world. And the amount of lewd bottles and names that came through there were incredible, basically to that degree.
Yeah. I mean, I can kind of get it in that people will remember it, but they're not going to buy it, or
not over and over, probably,
or at least not for their account. They're not going to put it in the back bar because it doesn't class the place up as much as they might think it does.
Probably the placements are limited, but Marty, is that not what we're telling people now? We're going to find your niche and own it. So maybe after they are doing what we tell them, after all, maybe that brand owns their strip club.
Yeah, but if that stripper goes to Disney World and says, "You know what? I think this be great here at Disney World. Put it in the Omni thingy or whatever." What's the big circle thing? Yeah, at Disney. Epcot. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Epcot bar.
Yeah.
How about this, Em? What are the other organizations, the other events that you would like to, or you don't have to be specific. You can talk in generalities. You would like to reach out to and work with. Are there any that are out there you go, there's an
Oh,
opportunity?
yeah. On my list to reach out to is Women of the Vine and Spirits. I understand we have and I don't know all the history and the relationships from ACSA, but I think we've worked together before. And ACSA is an entirely women-led organization. We should be doing more together.
Yeah. In fact, I thought a lot of them were. I thought that a lot of them, or a lot of members were
Oh,
already.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
already there's already a little intermeshing. Well, also too, I mean, what about, I always thought that there's so many spirit events. I mean, even when some spirit events go down, that they cease, another one pops right up. I mean, there's loads of them. But I thought it would be really cool. You and I met up in Ohio at
Mhm.
the Distiller Guild thing. I thought that would be a cool thing for ACSA to get involved with, where you help the various state guilds kind of organize these events that highlight their brands, because they're always successful events. I've never been to one that wasn't pretty good, considering the size. That one we were at, the Ohio
Mhm.
Distiller Guild Whiskey Festival outside of Cleveland, or not Cleveland, Columbus,
Columbus.
was quite
Yes.
good. It was fun.
Yeah, it was excellent.
Yeah.
Uh, we work with the guilds pretty heavily on advocacy efforts in the state, but I like that idea
The
of
other,
working together on, tasting and consumer events. I don't see why not. A lot of times with the guild, we take an approach of waiting for them to ask for our help, whether that's advocacy or with anything else. So that is an open invitation. If there are any guild listeners, reach out to me. We always are happy to support and help however we can.
yeah, I just attended the Wisconsin Distillers Guild meeting
Sure.
right before Distill America in Madison, Wisconsin. And I like the direction they're going. And they're really, they're doing the passport thing. I like the whole idea of really driving a distillery trail. It's great for tourism. If you don't have the wherewithal to put feet on the ground in some of your major markets, then build that distillery trail, try to drive people to your distillery.
Mhm.
Which is a great way. I know loads of distilleries that do really well just having people visit or doing events there.
Yeah.
Uh,
So we definitely see I can put data to this. In the annual craft spirits data report post COVID, we are seeing a shift in the percentage of sales that are going through tasting rooms.
yeah,
So
huge.
little by little, I mean, I think it's more than likely that this is happening because of challenges in distribution and, distributors cutting off brands, and this is happening all over the country. So I think it is more forced probably than a lot of them would like, but I think it's definitely an aspect of the business that, along with contract production, that can help keep many of them afloat during challenging times.
Well, I think too that if it's about building an environment that people want to come and visit, it's in your distillery, it's so much easier. You have so much more control over everything that's going on than when it's out there. If you talk to a lot of the folks
Mhm.
in Kentucky, where obviously their distillery trails, both their general one, and then they have the craft distillery trail, those folks are very happy. I mean, for the most part, the ones in the center part. But even the folks in Western Kentucky were feeling a little abandoned by the rest of it, because it is a little off the beaten path. They created their own, which I thought, sweet, that's so smart. And they came up with their own passport, and they have their own little thingy that they got going, and
Mhm.
little, You
Yeah.
gave present when you visited, I think there's about 4 or 5 distilleries.
Yeah.
I don't know.
One thing I've noticed is that the states that have I'll call it like an industry promotions board. So, Virginia has a Virginia Spirits Promotions Board, and they host their own event and their own competitions. And basically, their job is to promote Virginia spirits within the state. I I think that those are very helpful in the states where they exist.
Well, what about you guys do lobbying? Do you ever lobby the various states for that? I mean, I would think like here in Illinois, I don't know why there's a tourism board.
Yeah.
Here's some natural. You can create a little map of all the distilleries and say, here, folks, boom, put it in every hotel over on Michigan Avenue.
So
Send,
this is another avenue that's helpful that already exists in almost every state and almost every city is the tourism boards. And Stephanie, our events director, is very involved in the hospitality and tourism, industry at large. And so she's actually working on a webinar with a couple of different distillers who already work with their convention bureau or their, state board to tourism board to their benefit. So I definitely think that's another avenue, an untapped avenue in a lot of states.
and also, with, as we mentioned before, there's a number of folks that you see on LinkedIn who are, distilleries close, or even some of the big guys have been, laying folks off. So you have a lot of people out of work. They're searching. Some guys I've known have been out of work for the last 2 to 3 years. I don't know how they do it, families and all. They're not, independently wealthy like some of us. What are you guys doing or have done do you got any ideas about how to maybe promote our job network?
Yeah. So first of all, I don't think this is specific just to our industry. I think it's happening all over the country. There is a hard job market out there for sure. We do have a member only jobs board and our weekly craft spirits newsletter that we curate jobs from our members for our members to bring awareness to those into our community. But I will take a second to plug Caitlin Lubell at Booze Biz. This is her arena. She does a great job of recruiting and placing people. So I'm a big fan of hers. And I'm, open to suggestions of whether it would be helpful for ACSA to have a jobs board at large. But I have not seen a ton of demand for that specifically. But if there was demand for it, we would make it happen.
Yeah, that's good. Because I think it's funny. I just don't think a lot of these folks, because I've run into a couple of people just recently. You and I were both at Bar Convent Brooklyn. And when I was out there, I ran into some people I knew who were there looking for jobs, which was great. They're out there networking, but there's always that possibility you can get a job. But a lot of the folks who they're approaching were there trying to sell their spirits to folks that weren't necessarily out there looking to hire somebody. So, but
I will say one other thing is we do our convention, we do a volunteer program where if you volunteer 4 hours of your time, you get free pass to the convention, which we always prioritize people who are looking for a job for that.
Oh, there you go. Hey, see, that's nice.
So,
and I always tell people too, to go to these conferences for networking, because you never know. Networking.
Absolutely.
Very good. So what else can you expect? What are your plans for the rest of this year? I mean, the year's only half over and you only just started. Your feet are hardly even wet. So you got to get them really wet, maybe even up to the ankles.
We can only hope. Yeah, no, we have a lot we have a lot of cool stuff in the works, and I can't, like I said, I can't take credit for all of it. A lot of this stuff was in the works before I even got here. I just had the pleasure of debuting it. Uh, going back to the craft certified craft seal, I'm really excited about this project because it's not, to me, it's not just a little symbol that you're going to put on your bottle. That's just step one of the seal. But over the next couple of years, we have grand designs to turn this into a program that gives back to the craft distillers who use it, right? And maybe that means we have a page on the website that retailers and consumers can access that says, these are all the craft certified brands. Or we have retailer programs who will take anything with the craft certified label on it. Or we have a marketing grant. If you write out a plan for how you're going to promote your brand and you'll get X amount of money, right? These are all just dreams and things that are in the works, but it's not going to be just, debut it and then forget it. This program should grow and give back over time. So
Right.
we're working on that. I'm really excited about that. Advocacy efforts, we are always working on this behind the scenes, but mostly behind the scenes. But hopefully in a couple of weeks, I'll be able to talk about a new SET tax reduction act that we're working on. We are pushing really hard for a competition study on the distribution tier with the FTC. I know leadership met with them last year. We're continuing ongoing dialogues with them. We are also launching shortly an academic partnership program with accredited universities across the U.S. that have distillers programs. We will have an in-kind partnership program with them where they contribute to our research and our education, and our distillers can contribute to their curriculum and their research. So
great.
we have a couple of conversations in the works on this. So you can expect to see some announcements around this pretty
All
soon.
right. I was just thinking about that myself. I was going to throw that out there, but I thought, I don't know, your plate at that little, at the distillery buffet seemed a little full. So, but no, that's what, I've always been a big advocate of education on everything. If you're going to get into something, back, when I really got into this industry was as a brand ambassador. And I saw what whiskey education could do for a brand. It was enormous. I mean, it was back in the 90s way back, 1890s, actually, when people didn't really know the differences between bourbon and Scotch. And then next thing you know, both categories really started taking off with education. And I just think there's more and more of that is needed. And again, with distillers, I always feel bad for them when they put so much into it, sometimes millions of dollars into a distillery, and they can have a great product, but if no one knows about it, so if you can get into colleges, universities, Purdue has something. They've had some for quite some time. Oh,
yeah.
Is that one of them? You don't have to say it. No, I'm just gonna say it's probably one of them.
No, it's on our list.
Boom.
So
List. Gotcha.
yeah.
So, Em, what do you think about the industry? Where do you think it's going to go? How do you think? Do you think it's? I've studied a couple of different brands over the years, over the last 150, almost 200, almost 200 years.
Cool.
You'll see certain brands come and go, and it's due to industries in, ebbs and flows. But ebbs and flows, some of those ebbs can be, like 40 years.
Yeah.
What do you think, especially with cannabis and everything else competing?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's undeniable, right? That this is a really challenging period for the entire alcohol category. That's undisputed. Certainly, I don't think the craft category is going to disappear. Craft is essential to the industry and the industry's growth, right? Like, even when this cycle ends, big strategics and multinationals are still not going to know how to develop and build new brands. Like, that's never going to change. They might not be buying them right now, but as soon as things turn around a little bit, they're going to start buying them back up. So certainly craft is not going to change, or is not going away, I should say. Now, is it going to look different? Is it going to look smaller? I think yes. The answer is that it is likely going to look smaller.
So do you think like the cream of the crop will rise and survive? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see that craft distillers are already doing what they are best at and adapting. So a couple of things that we see that are keeping people afloat right now. We've already talked about a couple of them. So one is increasing contract production. We, in the 2024 data, which is the most recent craft spirits data report, is from 2024, 33% of the respondents were making more contract produced product. So that in itself is a pretty huge increase. But if you think about it, of course, it makes sense, right? If their brand's not moving as fast as they wanted to, maybe they have idle time at the distillery. This is, a way to bridge that gap for them.
Yeah.
There are more tasting room events. Like I said, they're sort of pulling back and relying more on their home states and their tasting rooms. I remember we did an article a couple of months ago that was specifically about tasting room events. And I want to say it said one of the distillers was saying that, when they host a couple of events every month, they make 30 to 40% more from their tasting room just by doing events. So they're adapting in that way. The one we haven't talked about that I think is really neat and I really love seeing is joining forces. I guess as a lack of a better term, we see that in several different ways. So you have craft on craft acquisitions, which we have not seen very often, but a couple of years ago, Middle West bought Old Elk, and also in Ohio, Cleveland Whiskey just bought Sandusky, so we're starting to see more of this. And beyond that, we're seeing more collectives, right? The newest one being the Sirens Spirits Collective, I think is what it's called. You know what I'm talking about from Sailor?
No. Sirens? No. I haven't heard
Siren Spirits Group. Siren Spirits Group. So it's a collective of women-owned brands that work together and they share back-end, resources and sales forces, and it makes everything more affordable, right? They were at Bar Convent Brooklyn with a booth together so that they could split the cost of the booth. And so these sort of collectives and joining forces are really exciting to see. And I think it helps all the way through the supply chain when distilleries do this.
I think it's kind of sad to see when you see some distillery guilds. Actually, there's so much inner fighting with some of them. You go, no, you got to remember, guys, don't try to compete. High tides float all boats. So you want to, if you can, team up with some folks and do create your little mini Samson Surrey, where you have your bunch of brands, and even if it's a bunch of brands where it's different categories. Yeah, all right, here's this kind of whiskey. Here's we have a gin over here. We have a vodka here. Do something like that. You can get all hire one kind of sales force guy or a small sales force. Go out, sell. That's how you think, guys. Don't compete. Don't try to compete. Try to work together. I don't know. I'm just a voice in the wilderness. I'm like a little John the Baptist out there, just howling at the moon. Oh well. All right, little Emmer, we're at our time. Thank you very much. I know you're very, very busy because you're a very, very important woman. Top of the game, on top of this huge new empire. And you're trying to move it forward. If anybody wants, you've seen Emily's email we posted up there anyways, so expect a lot of spam. And then
it can't be more than I already get. So.
You can get reach Emily at AmericanCraftSpirits.org or on LinkedIn. She's there, and she's a great resource. So folks, reach out to her and do it.
Yeah, I'm always happy to connect people with the resources that they need. So please, anybody's welcome to reach out. Thank you, Marty, for having me on today. I could have probably talked for 2 or 3 more hours. I feel like we barely scratched the surface.
It chose to be nice longer, but we just don't have the time. This is a very expensive platform. Very expensive. We pay by the minute.
Okay, well, fair enough. All right. Well, take care.
Hi, little M. Bye.
Thanks for spending time with us on I Drink, Therefore I Am. You can watch every episode of the podcast inside Hospitality Nexus, a global, human-first platform bringing the hospitality ecosystem together in one place. Inside the Nexus, it's a career fair that never closes, connecting industry leaders, educators, students, employers, and partners through real presence. Create your free account and explore the community at www.hospitalitynexus.org. And until next time, sip thoughtfully, drink responsibly, Slán Che.